mode.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Tracy Fitzpatrick, and I'll be your moderator today. Thank you so much for joining us here at Netcom Learning, a market leader in promoting lifelong learning, training, and talent development solutions. We are very excited to host today's webinar, Microsoft Excel 101, What You Must Know. And presenting today's topic is Richard Dulker. Richard is a Microsoft certified expert with over 9 years of experience as a trainer and consultant. He has provided a number of trainings and webinars on business intelligence and Microsoft SQL technologies to support a variety of organizations. And he has participated in the migration of the credit card system, FDR to TCs, and was recognized for his personal contribution by the financial institution. He has been a Microsoft certified trainer and certified solution associate in SQL 2014 through 16 and business intelligence solutions. Now, please bear in mind that this is an overview of a very robust topic. We do offer a collection of technical and business courses that can be tailored towards your specific requirements. If you are interested in a further discussion, you can make an appointment with our learning consultants through our website at netcomlearning.com. Today's session is also being recorded, so you will get access to the recording in the next 24 hours. And now I'd like to invite Mary Feeney, our Director of Corporate Learning here at Netcom Learning, to discuss some values and important items. Mary, go ahead.
Thanks, Tracy. Netcom Learning helps customers build innovative learning organization by achieving a smarter workforce that's adapting to change and driving growth. We do this with a broad catalog of offerings, developing customized learning plans, and our global delivery capabilities. Since 1998, we have been empowering organizations with our managed learning services to help them reach optimal performance results and address challenges. We have 9 practice areas in which we specialize. They encompass people, process, and technology training. Today's presentation is from the business application practice area. Netcom Learning offers a comprehensive training portfolio for Microsoft Excel training courses. Here are some of the upcoming classes that's on our public schedule. We have Excel Level 1 that's happening on March 12, Level 2 on March 13, and Level 3 on March 14. We can also deliver private training to your teams, of which the learning plan can be customized to the specific needs of your audience. These offerings can be found with a simple search on our website at netcomlearning.com. With that, I'll turn it back to Tracy.
Well, thank you so much, Mary, for all that wonderful information. So why should you all want to attend this webinar today? Well, Excel is the powerhouse of spreadsheet software most commonly used for business applications and thereby making your job easier and less stressful. The tool that is capable of analyzing data, performing calculations, presenting information in advanced dashboards. It also integrates information from different programs. This webinar will help you gain the necessary skills to create, edit, format, and print basic Microsoft Excel worksheets. And now I'd like to give you a quick overview of the logistics before we get started. To begin with, you do have the option to adjust the window size to your liking. Simply hit the Escape key and find the Zoom button on the top left corner of your GoToWebinar viewer. Everyone has been muted except for our presenters. Please feel free to submit any questions you do have for the presenters here in the questions pane, and we will address them at the end of the session. A PDF copy of today's slides are also in the handout section of your GoToWebinar viewer. And now, in just a few moments, I'm going to pass it over to Richard, who will be presenting today's topic. Richard, go ahead. You are live. Okay, and bring up your audio, Richard.
Yeah, I'm ready. Okay, so hello everybody. My name is Richard Dulker. I'm here with you today in order to show you the Microsoft Excel 101, what you must know. This is going to be covering some of the basic stuff that we can do when working with Excel. We are going to be covering 4 major topics: But before we start, let me just go ahead and introduce myself. Thank you, actually, Mary and Tracy, for your kindly introduction. As they said, here's my name, Richard Dulker, some of my certifications that I hold, and today I'm here from Netcom Learning in order to show you this webinar. Okay, so anyways, a little bit about me. I have over 10 years in the IT field. I was a BI analyst for a financial institution in Mexico, actually Scotiabank, and then I became an IT consultant and a trainer. Okay, so what we are going to be looking at today, Microsoft Excel 101, what you must know. And as Tracy well said at the introduction, Microsoft Excel is an actual powerhouse, right? And we can create a lot of great stuff with Microsoft Excel. We can analyze data, we can create presentations, we can show the data in advanced reportings and dashboards. This is really important when we want to actually show data to the business analysts so they can come up with good decisions regarding the business, okay? And we can do lots more. But in order to do that, we have to understand how actually Excel works and how we can understand how we can identify what we need in order to start working with Excel. So some of the major topics that we are going to be looking at today, it's going to be about creating workbooks and working with worksheets, okay? So we are also going to explore how we can work with AutoFill and autocomplete, how it actually works, how I can identify when I'm auto-completing or when I'm auto-filling up some cells. Also, how to work with visualizations like graphics and charts. Then, our third topic, it's going to be about naming cells and range cells. That is really helpful when we are working with certain type of formulas on which we are using the same value over and over again. And then, obviously, working with formulas and functions, the difference between a formula and a function, how can I identify one of the other? Okay, and at the end, we're gonna leave a little time in order to do a little Q&A so you can ask any questions that you may have. So if you come up with a questions as we go through the topics, just please write it down so you don't forget it, and later at the end, we can go and review those questions. Okay, so let's get started. The first topic of today, we have about what is creating a workbook and working with worksheets. It's pretty simple, how we can identify the workbook. The workbook is going to be the Excel file itself, okay? That's the one that it's going to be known as the workbook. It's the file that we create and we save in our computers. Usually this file is going to have an XLS extension. That's how we are going to recognize it, okay? Inside a workbook, there can be several worksheets, right? And we can add as many worksheets as we need. We're going to be looking at it later, okay? There are a lot of stuff that we can do whenever we are working with worksheets, okay? So in order to go from one sheet to another, we are going to be doing it through the sheet tabs, okay? Then we can also rename the name of the sheets or actually even hide or show as the sheets as we see fit. Now, as soon as we open a workbook or an Excel file, by default, when I see a blank book, it's going to show only one working sheet or worksheet, okay? And then we can keep adding them. Here is an example of a blank book, a blank Excel book, okay? So the entire file is the one that we are going to be defining as a workbook, okay? And at the bottom, we can see the sheet tab, okay? Here we can see that by default, we have only one sheet available. Next to the name, you can see a plus sign. In this plus sign, that's the one that I'm going to be using in order to be adding more sheets to my workbook. And from there, I can, as I said before, change the name or hide the sheets or any other options that we have available. We have lots of actions that we can perform within the workbook and the worksheets. We can label and name in the worksheets. We can hide the columns and rows. We can also insert files, pictures, visualizations, any kind of media files, or any other files that from other Office applications as well. We can insert and delete rows and columns as well. We can also get data from external sources like an SQL database. We can actually connect to a web service and gather the data as well. It's actually really amazing what we can do with Excel. And in order to show you more accurately what we can do here, let's just open up and see it working as it should, right? So whenever we open our Excel, we have several options, and the blank workbook is the most used option available. Once we have opened our workbook, here we can see that we have all these tabs available. We have the File option tab, and this is the one that that we can use in order to save our file or even open other files as well. Then we have the Home tab. Here we can have all the mostly the format options that we have for cells, conditional formatting, for the data type that we are using, right? The type of font that we are going to be using. Then we have the Insert tab, for example, and this is the one that we are going to be using for inserting pictures, media files, other Office files, objects as well, or any other visualizations, for example, right? Then we have the Draw. This is one new option in 2016 and allow us to draw something like if it was a paint, right? Then we have the page layout, and this is really important because when we're working with Excel, we have to define a print area, which is going to make it easier for us to print that information that comes from any workbook. Okay, so this is something really important that we want to define: the size, the print area, the orientation of the data, right? So we can, if we don't do that, believe me, you can end up wasting a lot of paper, right? When you want to print any of the data that you have on Excel. Then you have the Formulas tab, and here we can see all the function library. We see that we have financial functions, logical functions, text functions, a lot of functions available, right? Then we have a Data tab, the one that we are going to be using in order to extract data from different sources. It can be a text file, it can be an SQL database, for example, or it can be from a web service as well, right? Then we have the Review tab on when we can check our spelling, for example. Then the View tab, how we can actually work with the worksheet and maybe not show the formula bar, for example, the headings of the columns and the rows, or even actually get rid of the grid lines, right? And the page layout that we are going to be using, everything that we can find here in the View tab. And this is one option that perhaps you might have available or not. This is one of the actual new power tools that we have available with Excel, which is called Power Pivot, for example. The other two are Power View and Power Map. Now, let's see. I said that we can, for example, hide columns. How we can hide the columns? We select them, then we do a right click over them, and then we have an option here on the menu that says hide. And as simple as that, I can hide columns, right? Then how can I show them again? Then I just select again and click on hide. And this is as simple as how I can hide columns, or I can do it that with rows as well. For example, hide, unhide. This is pretty simple stuff. This is really basic stuff. This is something that we need to know when we are working with a workbook and with worksheets. Now, as I said here, we have the sheet tab, and we can keep adding those sheets as I click on the plus sign. And I can add as many as I want, okay? And I can start rename them. Perhaps the first sheet is going to be showing the data. And then we have the name of data for the first sheet. And then the second one is going to be the report. Now, I can realize that I don't need these 3 sheets available, right? So I can just hide them perhaps, or maybe I can then unhide it, and better, I can just delete it as well. It's just as simple as a right click on it and then select the proper action as well. Also, I can do a right click over here and rename, click on rename, so I can rename the sheet as well. Now, let's delete everything that I have here, and now I have only 2 sheets that I can go through the sheet tab and select what I can do. I can look at the data sheet or the report sheet, and we are going to be looking at that later, how we can make it work easier with this. This is something that it's great once that we can understand how we can move through the worksheet inside our workbook, and how many worksheets do we have inside our workbook. Well, then we can understand better how works Excel, and we can actually create really interesting stuff, hiding the data that it's actually feeding our report, for example, so nobody can actually tamper with that data and only see the graphics, for example. Now, from the tab, from the file tab, I can save my workbook and then reuse it whenever I want. So this is some of the pictures that you can see when we could actually see how we can hide the columns. How do you just select the number of columns that you want to hide, and then just click on hide, and then they will disappear. Also, we can delete or add more columns depending on what we want to do, right? We can here, as we can see, insert. If I select insert there, then I would insert 3 more columns to the right, okay? If I click on delete, I would delete the data within the column A, B, and C, okay? And also we have options in order to insert cells as well. Now, let's go to the next topic. The next topic is gonna be about exploring primary features from like going from autocomplete to autofill, and even looking at some of the charts and graphics and how we can create them. Something that is really important is how we can determine when we're working with autofill or autocomplete. It's not kind of the same. It looks like the same, but it's not. So when we are talking about autocomplete, is when it's something that is only going to work with text and numbers inside the same cell, okay? It's not going to be working for series or of numbers and dates, for example. Autocomplete, what it does is that it's going to try to identify or predict the value of the word that you're typing next. And this is something that is really useful then when we are using the same value over and over again for that text. For example, let's say 9. We are talking about the word 9 several times. Whenever we type the letter N, Excel is going to try to predict, right? And it's going to let us know its prediction, and it's going to try to autocomplete the value of the cell by typing 9 itself, right? And then we can select and say, yes, I'm typing 9, so I let it the cell to autocomplete, right? There is another option, which is autofilling, and I'm going to talk about this in a moment. How we can accept in Excel what we start typing, so it auto-complete itself. So we go, and whenever Excel shows its prediction, we just type enter and it's going to auto-complete the value. Okay. Now, usually the prediction is going to match the uppercase and lower cases, and it's going to be typed exactly as we typed it before. So if we did it with a typo, for example, or a mistake, it's going to actually predict the same value, and it's going to type the word with the same mistake over and over again. So we have to be careful without that autocomplete feature, right? So in order to type something different instead of the autocomplete prediction, we just keep typing. Instead of, perhaps we were not going to type the word 9, but the word known instead. So we just keep typing, and now Excel is going to try to predict one more time, but in this case, it's not going to be able to predict only with one letter, in this case, the letter N. It will wait for the next letter. It's going to be waiting for a letter I or a letter O, right? And as soon as we type one of those letters, then it's going to let us know if we are talking about 9 or about known. Now, when we want to fill some cells as fast as we can use the AutoFill function or the AutoFill feature, right? This is really useful when we want to fill the cells automatically with a series of patterns or a series of continuous numbers. These also work with dates. It's really useful when we want to put a pattern of numbers, and we can just drag the cell to the left, to the right, up or down, whatever we want to, so we can autofill those values. Okay. With that, we are going to be using something that is called the fill handle, right? The fill handle is the one that is going to be dragged to any of the empty cells in order to autofill the values with the series of numbers of pattern of numbers that we selected previously, right? This is really useful when we are talking about days of the week, days of a month. If we are talking about a series of numbers that goes from 1 to 30, for example, or that it's keep adding a number by 2s or by 5s, whatever, okay? So actually Excel is going to identify that pattern and start filling those cells automatically, okay? This is some of the examples that we can see whenever we are working with the AutoFill feature. Here we have a great example when we have the in the picture number 1, the sample number 3, the picture number 2. Okay. Now Excel is identifying the pattern, and then it's going to be adding the same continuous numbers or continuing with the pattern as we drag the AutoFill handle to the bottom. As in the second picture, we can see, for example, how it can autofill the days of the week. We start with Monday, and then we drag down the AutoFill handle, and by itself, it's going to be filling up those cells, empty cells, with the days of the week, okay? And in the picture of the bottom, we have an example of the autocomplete feature. In this case, we can see two words like basketball and baseball. As you can see, as soon as we type BAS or B-A-S, Excel still cannot predict what we are going to be typing next because it has two options available. As soon as we type an E or a key, then it knows that perhaps we are going for basketball or baseball. So let's take a look at that. And as you can see, whenever I place the cursor in any cell, you can see this little square here at the lower right corner. This is the fill handle. Okay, so as soon as I type Monday, for example, Excel already knows that I'm talking about the day of the week, right? So perhaps it's going to be able to predict that whenever I start dragging to the right, I'm talking about the days of the week, and it's going to be auto-filling, right, the cells with the different days of the week, starting from Monday to Sunday. This is going to be also useful when we're talking about a series of numbers. Now, this is something important. When we're talking about numbers, if I don't define a pattern on how I'm going to be auto-filling those cells, I'm going to be using the same value over and over and over again. Okay, so in this case, if I want to define a series of numbers, then perhaps I go for 1 and 2. Then I already know that I'm adding 1 into each next cell, and then I get the full series of numbers. Okay, this is something that also works incredibly well when we're talking about dates, for example. Now, mind you, my date format is in Spanish, so usually we use first the day, and then first the day, then the month, and then we have the year, right? So if I go something like this, I keep adding dates autofilled into the cells. I'm talking about the 2nd of May, right? The 3rd, the 4th, the 5th, 6th, and so on. Now, I can add a special series of numbers. For example, I can say that I'm adding 3 between one cell and the other, and yes, Excel can predict that. Okay? So this is like the autofill function. This is something that can be really easily done using the autofill handle, but we also have another options available, and that is the fill option, the fill button here at the top of our home tab. Okay, if I go with 1 and then select the number of cells that I want to fill and the order, right? If I go and click only on fill, it's going to fill the cells with the same value, just like that, right? I'm going to the right, and I have ones in all file, in all the cells over and over again. If I go with 2, 1, 2, and then I perhaps define, and then I say, well, you know, I don't want the same values over and over again. I want to fill up a series, and then here we can define what type of series do we want with the autofill. We are going to fill in rows, columns, if it's going to be linear, growth, date, autofill, right? And if we go for date, then we can, for example, define if it's going to be a day, a weekday, a month, a year, okay? So this is the autofill. Now, what about the autocomplete? As I was saying before, let's say we're typing 9, 9. Then we go for a known, then again a 9. And here, Excel is going to try to autocomplete later, but with only one N. Right now, he doesn't know if we are going for 9 or known. He's going to be start waiting for the next letter. If I go for an O, then he knows, oh, it's known. Okay. So I just click on enter, and yes, I accept the prediction. And that's how autocomplete works. Also, autocomplete can work when we are talking about formulas or functions. If as soon as I click on S, then it's going to show me all the available all the options available starting with the letter S. This is the option of the autocomplete that we have when we are working with formulas and functions as well. Okay, so moving to the next topic, what we have visualizations, graphics, and charts. This is really interesting. This is really helpful when we start to create reports using Excel. And why is that? Because we know that if we have been working with Excel before, sometimes we get all these spreadsheets filled with columns and rows and lots of numbers, right? That's not a way to present the data. That's not the right way to do it. In order to do that, we go and make use of visualizations, right? Visualizations are going to help us to identify patterns, to identify trends, and it's easier to come up with a decision or try to identify something that is going on within our business from a visualization than just a table with numbers and text and whatnot, right? Why? And why is that? Because we can get lost in the translation. So for that, Excel has a wide range of all the common charts and type of graphics that we can use in order to present the data, right? We have the bar and column charts, for example. What's the difference between the bar and the columns? It's just a simple one. The columns are the ones that are going to be growing vertically, and the bars grow horizontally, but it's actually the same. Then we have line and area charts, and line combined with column charts as well. Then we have scatter and bubble charts, the famous pie and donut charts, for example. What is the main difference between the pie and the donut chart? Actually, none. They work the same. Okay, they want to define a piece of a percentage of 100%, right? The only difference between the pie and the donut, it's the hole in the middle of the donut, but they work exactly the same. Then we have slicers. Slicers, they are helpful if we want to filter some information from the report that perhaps we don't want them to see, or we want to actually stand out from the other information, right? And so we can use these slicers. Anyways, we have any other options available. There are plenty. We have pivot tables, we have map charts, we have KPIs, and with the new additions of these power tools in in Excel, with like Power View, Power Pivot, and Power Map, those options just got incremented. Okay, so something that is really important that I like to let you know is that we need to know the type of data that we are going to be using depending on the chart that we define. I mean, we cannot use all the data in the same way and select any type of chart that we want. We need to know, depending on the data that we want to show, what's the correct chart that we are going to be using, or the correct graphic that we are going to be using in order to present the data. Perhaps I like to be using bars, right? Because, or columns, but maybe if I use the data that I have, I'm going to be having like 30 bars showing shown on a graphic, and perhaps that doesn't say anything at all. Instead, maybe I can use a line chart instead, or something that actually shows a trend or a pattern between the data. Okay, or if I use if I have a lot of products or sub-products and I want to use a pie chart, then I'm going to be ending with a humongous pie that has several sections, and it's really difficult to read. So that is why we need to understand that we have to work with the proper data for the actual proper chart. Okay, so in the next slide, you can see how we can create a chart really easily. It's a really simple chart. We have a little table that has a couple of months. and 3 different animals, right? And let's say that the number of representing in the intersections are the number of sightings of those animals in the last 6 months. Okay, then we select the data and we go to the Insert tab and we go for the graphics, right? And from there we select one. In this case, we are going to be selecting the line with markers one. We select it and automatically it's going to arrange the data and present it in a graphic and visual way. Okay, let's do that. Actually, it's a really interesting example that we can follow. Here we have the month versus the dolphins and the whales. As we can see, it's the same little table that we have in the example in the previous slide. So how we can work with this? It's really easily as selecting the little table, and then we go to the Insert tab, and we here have the charts. Okay, Excel can actually recommend this one. They can say, oh, by the type of data that you are trying to show, I would recommend that you use this kind of chart. And we can accept that recommendation. Or we can go and just select the one that we want to use. In this case, we said that we are going to be using the line with markers. And see, as soon as I'm selecting the chart, it's coming up by itself automatically. It's pretty simple as that. But it's only as simple as the data can be. Okay, if you're trying to show a lot of data in the incorrect chart, then it's not going to be simple and it's not going to be actually showing anything at all. An example would be how can I show this data using pie chart, for example. In this case, what I would do is go for a total. And I can sum the values here. And I can actually use some of the features that we have seen and actually go with the AutoFill. Right, and I can tell that this is equals this is another formula, and I can use AutoFill, and then I can just select these little cells here, go to Insert, and go for a pie chart, and they say, let's say that it's 3D, and then I have a pie chart with all the percentage, the total percentage per animal for the sightings, right? Of 100%, which is the grand total of all the animals. And this as simple as that, how we can be working with charts and graphics. And you saw for one type of the data, how is it arranged? I used the line marker, right? And if I wanted to use a pie, then I go with totals, right? And then I summed all the values, came up with some totals, and then it's easier for me to show that using a pie chart. Okay, let's continue. I'm going to be talking about the next two topics, and then we are going to be looking at a final exercise that is going to be showing everything at the same time. So we have something that it's naming cells and creating range names. This is something that can be really, really helpful when we already know how to work with formulas. Perhaps we have a cell that we constantly keep using in the same formula over and over again. Now, when we are typing a formula, if I'm using that same value, I would have to go and click on that cell in order to be able to select it and let actually Excel know that I'm going to be, I don't know, multiplying that number for that same number over and over again. So it's kind of a hassle to always go and click on the cell and keep selecting it. So instead, what I can do is give that cell a name, right? And name it, I don't know, let's say percentage. So whenever I type my formula, I'm going to be typing the numbers, and then instead of going and select that cell, I'm just going to type the name of it, percentage, right? And it's going to actually invoke that cell and multiply it for the number I selected. So how we can actually we can do this not only with a cell but also a range of cells as well, and this is also really useful when we are talking about matrix, right? A data matrix that we have to constantly keep calling over and over again, instead of going back to the to any of the sheets and keep selecting the whole range of cells over and over again. I just select it once and I can give it a name, and then so I just call it by its name as many times as I need. Okay, so how we can name a cell or a cell range: we select a cell or cell range, and then we will see the name, a name box. I'm going to show it right now. We type a name, and then from the name box, I can see if I have any other names available that I already given to other cells or ranges. Okay, so here is the example. Here we have the sales rep, the orders, and the total sales. Then we select all the cells, right, that contains the total sales, and then that's the range that goes from the D3 to the D12. And here at the top we have the name box, and we give it a name. We name it Jan sales, the sales from January. Okay, and that's it. If I click on this little arrow here, you can see it's going to show me some sort of a drop box on which I can see any other names that I already have within my workbook. Okay, so also another options that I have in order to see the names is if I go and click on Control and the F3 key at the same time, I will come up with the name box screen, and from there I can add, delete, or edit any names that I already have. Okay. Now, this goes in hand with working with formulas and functions. So the formula is an expression that is going to calculate the value of a cell, right? Now, what is the difference between a formula and a function? Actually, the only difference is that the functions are already predefined in Excel. Okay, so the function is the one that has a name on it, like average, sum, subtract, VLOOKUP, SUMIF, okay? Those are the functions. The formula is when I'm typing the actual formula myself, and in this case, the example that we can see that in the A3 contains the formula that it's adding the A1 and A2 cells, right? So what I do is that I type on the A3 cell equals A1 plus A2. That's a formula, right? The function would be using the sum function, so I can come up with the same result. Right? A formula or a function has to always start with an equal sign. That's mandatory. If I don't put that equal sign, then it's gonna be like I'm typing just text inside the cell, okay? And it's not going to calculate anything. Now, we have to understand how they work. Functions and formulas. What is going to be calculated first, and that's what we call the operator precedence. Okay, so what we need to know is that if we enclose any formulas inside parentheses, right? That's the one that is going to be calculated first, and then it's going that result is going to be calculated by any other value that it's reminder inside the formula. Okay, so if we go for 6 plus 6 multiplied by 2 plus 1, we are going to be having a number of 13, right? But if we go 6 multiplied by then parentheses 2 plus 1, then it's going to go and resolve 2 plus 1 first, coming up with 3, and then multiply that by 6, then the result would be 18, for example. Okay, so it's really important that we know and we understand how Excel is going to solve all the formulas or the calculations. Okay, if we talk about parentheses, everything that is going to be inside the brackets or parentheses is going to be solved first before multiplying or dividing that number against the remainder values. Okay. Here we can see the examples of the formulas, the basic formulas that we have available for Excel. We have additions, subtractions, multiplications, divisions, and how we can represent them. As we can see, we always start with an equal sign, okay, and then we create the multiplication or the division or the even the powers we can do, okay. And the difference between the function and the formulas is that in this case we are going to call the function. The function has a name. In this case we are looking at the sum function, okay. Now it has to start with an equal sign as again, but in this sum function I'm going to, for example, give a range of cells as an input, right? And Excel by itself is going to come up with the result of adding all those cells and give me a total. Okay, so this is the main difference between those two. I can also use several functions within one function, okay, like call it nested functions. And we have lots of different functions. We have functions that work with logical functions, text functions like concatenate, uppercase, right, left, that is going to help us trim or to count the number of characters. We have numeric functions. We have date functions as well. We have a lot of functions that we available for us. It's really difficult to memorize all those functions. That is why Excel has them like, you know, encased in the different type of functions that we have available, financial, logical, whatever. And it's going to help us with the criteria that it's going to be expecting, so we can solve the function properly. Usually the ones that you're going to be using the most are the ones that you're going to be memorizing. Otherwise, Excel is going to help you to fill up those blanks so you can get with the actual and proper result. And here we can see some of the options that we have available for the formulas. As you can see, the total equals the sum and the range of cells. Okay, and then sums, and we have the result. We have other options when we're working with functions. We can insert the function into a cell. Okay, and then when we go to the insert tab and go into insert function, then we will have the option in order to insert any different type of function available. Okay, in this case they are going for an average, and when we do it this way, we are going to be having the function's argument window is going to pop up, and then it's going to let us know what it's expecting. Okay, so here we define the range of the numbers on which we want an average, and after that We click on OK, and we get the result. Okay, so I guess we have a couple of 5 minutes, so we can present um, some of the options that we have when working with naming cells. Here, for example, we have a unit price. If I want to multiply that by 5%, if I go something like this is typing a formula, okay? I multiply this by this, and then I'm going to sum it again for the same unit, and then I have a 5% increment. That's a formula, okay? That is really simple to do. Now, I'm going to be doing the same for all the cells. So instead, how can I do it quicker? Well, I'm going to select the cell, then I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to put it on increase, okay? And I'm going to type enter. Now, what I can do here instead is this is equals this one plus inc plus this one over here. And then I can use the AutoFill feature. And it's going to calculate that that cell over the against all the rows, okay? And now I have a total price. And that's how it works, right? As simple as that. I already used formulas, right? I already named a cell, and that way it's easier for me to come up with a number that I need in order to with a complete value. Now let's see, for example, this. I'm going to add in this one here. I'm sorry. Okay, I have product and product category. Let's just arrange this data. Okay, let's use a sort. We can add a label, a sort B, and click on OK. It's going to be sorting this. Let's remove any duplicates, and I have unique values now. Okay, now I'm going to show you a function. I want to know the quantity of each product, okay? And how it works and how easily we can do that. So for that, I'm going to be naming some ranges. Pretty easily. For example, product category. I'm naming it prod. Now I'm selecting a range. Product subcategory. Prod sub. And then I'm naming quantity. Now we are naming sale ranges. Now let's use it on a formula, not a formula, a function in this case. In this case, I'm going to sum ifs, and I'm going to select the range. Now I have it as a name. Then the criteria first, prod, right? In this case, I'm going to select accessories, right? And then I'm going to select the second range which I have with subprod, and then this, right? Now same. process up. Sorry. Okay, and it's identifying in these cells the accessories and then the type of subproduct, and it's going to be adding by itself, right? Simple as that. And this is a formula that is using the name ranges and the cell ranges as well. And this is how we can come up with something really useful that can help us to actually go fast and then get totals by product and subproduct, and using cell ranges and using formulas and using functions. Okay. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the session. I want to give it a little time so we can have some questions and answer. I hope you enjoyed the class. If you, I guess you have a lot of questions. I tried to show you in actual how it actually works instead of just showing you a couple of slides, right? So if you have any questions, please go ahead and let's see what so we can answer them, and I hope you like the show. Mason?
Thank you so much, Richard. That was most informative. You can mute yourself now. I have to do a few more things here. And as we celebrate our 20th anniversary, to serve you with the best in class IT and business certification training, we bring you unbeatable 20th year celebration offer this month to make your learning fantastic and affordable. So we are offering up to 50% on some of our popular courses. So do take advantage of those. You can see that right up there on our screen. And we want to also let you know that Netcom Learning does offer a comprehensive portfolio for Microsoft courses, which you can see right up there. And we do offer team training, which can be customized and accelerated to meet your organization's specific needs. You can contact us today to be connected to one of our learning consultants to help advise you on your specific needs, or email us at webinar@netcomlearning.com. And we all know technical skills are necessary to empower our careers, but do you need to improve or upgrade your leadership skills as well in order to accelerate your career? Along with your technical abilities, you can develop the skills you need to manage yourself, others, and business better. Welcome to Starter Learning, a collaborative knowledge platform bringing the world's best business and leadership insights from our Fortune 1000 leaders, best-selling authors, and Ivy League professors. Further, if you are interested in learning from the top American leaders, you can log on to the e-learning platform, starterlearning.com, and avail the special promotion meant for first-time users. You can use coupon code STARTER10 and begin your leadership journey now. And right now, we do want to launch a quick poll to find out how many people might be interested in taking some additional training. So please take the time to fill that out before you all log off and get back to work. In addition, we do have a lot more informative webinars coming up, so please go to netcomlearning.com in order to register. And don't forget to like and follow our social media pages to get the latest technology updates. You can refer to our GoToWebinar chat window for the links. And we just have about a minute left, so we can get to, let's see, we have one question that we can get to. Okay, someone would like to know, is there a formula, this is from Jean, is there a formula that will automatically highlight in an entire row or column?
Well, yeah, like highlight, like using colors. Yes, well, this is not actually like a formula, but also how we can work with slicers and filters. If that's the question, yes, you may like have a formula that not an actual formula, but you can work with filters and what we call also conditional formatting for cells. So you can add different colors to them depending on the numeric value.
Okay, one more quick question, which is kind of in code, so hopefully I can read it properly. Is M code the standard for macro scripting or VBasic, and how does one add menu selections to EQN block in Excel?
Okay, well, in this case, for macroing, it has changed a lot. Now, obviously, Visual Basic is the main language, and the MDX as well, for this language that we might be using for macroing. Now, nowadays, we have the option, for example, to record a macro, right? Now, how was the last part of the question again?
Let's see, add menu selections to EQN block in Excel. How does one add menu selections?
Menu selections, yes, exactly. There are two ways in order to add menu selections. Okay, we can use objects that are actually objects of a macro, right? And actually record the macro and then let them know what we want to select. Or we can actually use a matrix in order to create some sort of a catalog that doesn't need any language or macro language like Visual Basic VB, and create some sort of menus like drop-down menus or checkboxes, whatever, you name it. So we can use both. We can use matrix, like a data matrix, on which we can create some sort of a catalog. And with VLOOK functions, we can call up the data, or we can use macros as well, right? So we can use them both.
Okay, well, thank you, Richard.
Yeah,
we're just about out of time, so thank you, Richard, and thank you all for joining us today. If you do come up with any additional questions, feel free to send them to webinar@netcomlearning.com at any time. We hope that you found today's webinar informative, and we look forward to seeing you back here with us soon. Feel free to tell your friends and colleagues about our webinars and other courses. Have a great day, everyone.